great time to bring a prospective member, a friend, a fellow Rotarian, Rotaract Rotarian, whatever the case may be. It'll certainly be a good time, and our social committee does a fantastic job setting up these events. Well, like I said earlier, our club
Do you use your phone number with this?
Yeah.
Having the international outreach that we have, also the support nationally. So individuals are coming
9612.
visiting our city. Oftentimes we get contacted to say, hey, I'd love to come speak, I'd love to give a program, and we get that a lot.
You want your repeat?
Yes, please.
Oh, I think there we go, thank you. It's extra special when it's a fellow Rotarian who does that. Last couple weeks ago, we were contacted by Jason Browne. Jason Browne is a Pennsylvania Rotarian who has had an instrumental impact on Shelter Box. And I just had to ask, he's only been involved with Shelter Box since March of this year. So it's pretty remarkable.
That is very true.
Yes, and he'll get to share more about that. For those of you that don't know what Shelter Box is, you're about to learn a whole lot. But also, I want you to think about this number, 3 million. 3 million lives are what they've estimated have been impacted by the benefits of Shelter Box, providing shelter during natural disasters, tsunami, earthquake, hurricane, whatever the case may be. So it will be remarkable to hear that. But right now, Jason is on what you could say a trek from Oregon all the way to North Carolina, is that right?
Close.
Close. Well, I went from memory here. But he's going across the country sharing the good word about Shelter Box, and I'd love for you to hear from him himself. So please give a round of applause for who was the Houston Rotary International Convention MC, Jason Browne.
Hello, everybody. Hey, y'all, how you doing? Can I just get one of the secretary claps real quick? One of those. Yeah, that was hilarious. I was like, what's wrong with Andrew? Why'd you do that to Andrew? And Scott was talking about the fair and talking about some tents. These are different types of tents that we're going to be talking about today. I want to say thank you to Chris, thank you to Andrew, thank you to Allison. And what I'm going to start off with is passing this around. This is a Shelter Box light. Who wants it first? Brent. Yep. There it is, Brent, the musician. Everybody, who was in the International Convention in Houston? I have 2 fans in the audience. Oh, sorry. We got all the fans back here. Who was in Singapore? Okay. When I was in Houston, when I was in Singapore, one of the groups that I connected with was Shelter Box. And the reason why I connected with Shelter Box is because it's one of the organizations that is not only founded through Rotary activity, it started off as a Rotary project out in the UK, but the amount of work that they do is paramount to saving lives around the world. So one of the folks who works with Shelter Box, his name is Bruce. He's called a Shelter Box response team member. And he was sent, and these folks get sent all around the world to help out folks in disasters. So he was sent out to Peru. The Amazon River flooded, and this one town in the middle of the Amazon jungle was really greatly impacted. All of our homes were devastated. The government of Peru just could not take care of this. They were forgotten about. The Shelter Box knew that they existed. So Bruce, with his team, went to this one area. They had a hop on a boat, go down this long river. It took hours to get there. They had a bunch of supplies with them. When they got there, they had to carry all these supplies out to this area where all this town was. This town. When they got there, all the houses were devastated. Flooding was still a problem. In some of the houses, the water was up to the waist, and so they would make little tiny things on the side of their house to sleep in and still walk around inside their house while it was flooded. These are the kind of conditions that these folks were in. And when they started working in the area, one of the things that SRTs do is they go into the area, they say, hey Bob, what's going on? What's wrong? What else is here aside from just the shelter? And in those conversations, there's this one little girl that thought it was fascinating. And so she started following Bruce around and started like asking questions about different things, or pointing to, because they didn't speak the same language. And they started putting up tents in some of the areas that were level ground and dry. These are the shelter box tents that they provide folks at the time of need. And so this little girl, she wanted to help. So we put her on his shoulders, and in the tent you have to like attach the nets on the inside. So she was the one attaching the nets on the inside and making sure that it was all hunky-dory for the family. But there's over 100 families in this town, and that was a situation in which Bruce and the entire team for this one little girl in town were able to help out. It wasn't just shelter, they provided lights, solar lights, that you see there. In the situations where there is no electricity, those are the kind of lights they provide, they're all solar. Some of them even have USB, so in areas where they do have phones, you can charge your phone. Pretty cool. They also provided pots and pans and blankets. One of the blankets that are over here, I'll talk to you about that in a second. But these are all the things that this family had. But the crazy part is, and this is when Rotary comes into play. It took them 10 days to get the approval from the Peruvian government to go in. And how they got approval was because of the influence of Rotarians in Peru. They were able to work with Rotarians, and this is the beautiful connection. This is the reason why I connected with them, is because Rotary and Shelter Box go hand in hand. When Shelter Box needs to go into an area and there's pushback from the local government, or this problem over here, maybe there's too much violence, or these gangs are causing an issue, Rotarians step in and they usually dissipate the issue. So this is what Shelter Box does. This is what Shelter Box provides. And the reason also why I got involved in this whole project is that earlier this year in March, I gave a TEDx talk on the topic of privilege. It was great. It was fantastic. Had a bunch of crowds, had a really great crowd. And there was 1 week after I was reflecting on the talk. In 1 week, there was flooding, there was war, there were fires, and there was a hurricane, all in 1 week. And the one thing that reached, the one privilege that none of these folks had that were impacted was shelter. And I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do something this year with Rotary, and now with something in this space, it has to be Shelter Box. And that's where that comes into play. How many people have heard about Shelter Box before? How many people have not heard about Shelter Box before? Ooh. So a lot of folks know them because they provide these tents, but they provide so much more than that. The lights are one of those. My goal going across the country is to raise awareness about Shelter Box and remind Rotarians that really amazing things can happen. This started off as a Rotary project. I think it was a district grant or a global grant that then transformed into its own organization. For one, it's a reminder of what we can do as Rotarians. Two, I'm hoping to raise a meager amount of $11,400 for Shelter Box, $100 per million people that are impacted by disaster worldwide. 114 million people do not have shelter. So 11,400 is what I'm seeking to raise by the time I'm done. So, with that being said, now, when I just came from Raleigh, North Carolina, and they had a few folks donate. So, is there any table that would want to commit to donating anything? It could be $1. That's it, and you can get one of these Shelter Box lights. Table, this table back here. What's your name, sir? Frank. Can I get a really big clap for Frank? Hold on, wait. After that secretary clap. One solid clap. 1, 2, 3. Appreciate that. One more. I have one more Shelter Box light. Anybody else who's committing to the whole project? All right, round of applause. Bring a round of applause for Delegation. All right. On the count of 3, one solid clap. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so, one thing before I go, I do want to comment on this. This whole project started not too long ago. In fact, this whole road trip happened 6 weeks ago. And Rotarians all across the United States were like, Jason, we're going to make this happen. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this. They were like, Jason, we're going to make this happen. We're going to travel across the country. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina yesterday. It was in Moore Square, which is right downtown Raleigh. And we set up this tent and everything. One of the hardest things to do representing a group that has shelter is when homeless families come up to you and say, hey, that'd be really great for our family. And I had to say, hey, this is an international organization and we work with disasters. That broke my heart. Like, I was like, this is really difficult to do. So I reached out to Shelter Box and I was like, what can I do? And the one thing they encouraged me to do is that if you know of folks in this area that are passionate about shelter, especially poor folks in this area, because I know that shelter and homelessness is an issue, one of the things that we're working on is going to be a cause-based club, possibly, for folks who are passionate about shelter. So at the very least, I can get, if you're interested, I'll be sitting out on the outside. So one, if you want to donate, meet me on the outside. Two, if you want to learn more, meet me on the outside. Three, if you know people that want to help with the cause of shelter, whether it's locally or globally, meet me on the outside there. Any last questions before I wrap up? Can I get one question? One question. Yes.
Not really a question, just a comment. Those lights are great. We were down in one of them, and my wife brought them to them home. The lights are fantastic. The little shelter box lights.
Thank you. The shelter box lights are fantastic. Everybody, my name is Jason Browne. I'll be sitting on the outside if you have any questions. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Oh, yeah, perfect. Oh, God, if you just give me one stop. 1, 2, 3. All right, good.
Jason, thank you so much. I can tell you that hearing a number like 114 billion in need of shelter, I would have never guessed that. So a really big impact that this program is making. And Jason, we love your enthusiasm and the commitment that you have to help provide shelters to so many. It's something that we've all seen, we've all been around, but it's easy to just see it and move on instead of actually see it and do something. So thank you for actually being the doing something on it. Well, you got to see an international program that has a huge impact, millions wide, and now you get to hear from how our local delegation of membership, the impact and what they learned attending the Rotary International Convention in Singapore this year. So this year, the Rotary Club of Knoxville had 4 attendees in Singapore. We had Rushton Johnson, who recently joined our club from the Atlanta Airport Club, past President Ed Anderson, President-elect Shannon Holland, and Director Susan Daycock. All of them beautifully represented our club and gave a great representation of how important this club's reach is, not only locally, but internationally. So I cannot wait for you to hear about their experiences, maybe some information about future conventions too. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to President-elect Shannon Holland.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Don't get used to that. That's the most secretarial clapping you'll ever hear, Andrew. Thanks, Jason. All right, I'm Shannon Holland. I'm your president-elect, and I was very pleased to go to Singapore. Every year, Rotary holds a convention somewhere in the world, and this year it's in the Republic of Singapore. And as President Chris said, it's actually important that each club that can send a delegation each year. While you're there, you get great ideas for better projects. You make connections with people from around the world, and not only that, but you can give ideas. And this happens everywhere, not just at international convention. It happens at the district level. It can happen when we have socials with other clubs, but there's no place like a convention. I personally met people from 5 continents, and Singapore was actually my 8th convention, but I was not a member at my first convention. That was in New Orleans in 2011. Sam Weaver was president of this club, Ed was a member, and I was invited to go. I had been asked to join Rotary, didn't think I had the time, didn't think I could include it, but you know, Ed always says, we've got to have lunch somewhere, and on a Tuesday, I'm like, yes, I do. But I attended the convention at Towns' urging as well, thank you very much, and I joined right after I got back. What I saw and heard at convention was extraordinary. I see a lot of people looking at our pictures there. These are going to be mostly from the convention itself and the different events, and there's someone I think from Egypt whom Susan met. But when I was in New Orleans at the convention, Bill Gates was the keynote speaker. And when I heard him speak and I heard him commit funds from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation of 100 million in matching funds to Rotary. And he showed for the first time the video that said, we're this close to eradicating polio. I knew immediately, this is something I'm going to make time for. I want to be a part of this. This year, like I said, was my 8th convention, and it was in the Republic of Singapore. Let me tell you a little bit about where we actually were in the world. It was not a short trip. Ed and I flew from here to Atlanta. We took a 747 from Atlanta on Korean Air to Seoul, Korea. It took 15 and a half hours. I watched a lot of movies. And then when we landed in Seoul, that was interesting, but it was only 6 more hours from there until we reached Singapore, so almost 24 hours in the air. Singapore is on the continent of Asia. I had never been. It's a city-state. It's also beautiful. It's tropical, equatorial. It's a little hot, and because it's located only 1 degree north of the equator. It's about 85 miles north of the equator. It's a wealthy place, very clean, highly developed. They have beautiful apartments, beautiful condos everywhere, lots of homes too. It's the only nation I've ever visited where they make their own land. You can ask me about that later. The South China Sea is to the east, and there are lots of bodies of water because it's an island. English is one of 4 official languages in Singapore. We had no trouble communicating. It's very multicultural. It truly is highly diverse. It's a melting pot. They also have some interesting laws. Everybody asks me, can you really not chew gum? That's a real thing. You cannot make noise after 10 p.m. If you are a Singaporean citizen, you are reminded at the airport and on the planes leaving Singapore that it is illegal for you to use drugs anywhere in the world, even if you went somewhere like Amsterdam where it was legal. And by the way, do not litter unless you want to wear one of those DUI litter pickup vests. Great shame if anyone sees you out in one of those. So the convention itself, like I said, since Singapore, it was a perfect host for this. They are accustomed to tourism. They are accustomed to big events. We were the 2nd largest event in Singapore this year. Anybody know what was first? Taylor Swift's 5 concerts. There were more than 13,000 people from around the world. It was held at this famous hotel that has 3 buildings and a surfboard on top. It was in the convention center that's attached to it. And if you've ever seen Crazy Rich Asians, then you've seen where we were. It's the party at the end of the movie. Today, you're going to hear about lots of different things from the convention. The opening sessions, extraordinary. The speakers, also extraordinary. Jason did a great job in Houston, I remember him well. You're going to hear about attendees from around the world, the House of Friendship. That's where you want to spend a lot of time when you go next year to Calgary. We also attended seminars and workshops, plenty of social events. We did personal things. We ate, we drank, we met a lot of people. And Susan, Rushton, and Ed are going to tell why they went to convention, what they learned, how it benefits them, maybe how it benefits the club, and you're going to hear some of that, and why they're going to go back to Calgary. And then at the end, we'll talk about Calgary, and then next week, we're going to talk a little more about Calgary. So, Susan, if you're ready, I'd like to introduce our very own Susan Daycock. I will mention she flew first class all the way to Singapore. The mic is yours.
Yeah, sure, I want to.
So, automatic upgrades is wonderful. So I want to very quickly, because when people tell me, give me time to talk, I want to just, I get nervous and I don't say everything I want to say. So I wanted to tell you 2 main things. Is I had a great time, and I would like for these 4 people to be 40 next year. I saw those big groups of people that were going, and they were sharing something that I wish we could share too. I was jealous, let's just say that. So I went because I have an idea in my head about a project, which is a peace project that is a long-term project, and I went to see if that's a possibility. And one of the things that was to be a possibility, I wanted to see if there are any Arab countries represented in Rotary. So as soon as the flag ceremony, which by the way is breathtaking, the flag ceremony goes on for like 20 or 25 minutes, and I recorded the whole thing. The only reason I recorded it is because I can go back and find out the countries that were, the Arab countries that were represented, and that way I can go online and find out which ones I can reach out to and ask them if they participate in the project that I'm hoping to do in the following years. Little did I know that after my hand was almost broken holding that I left there, went to Starbucks, and I'm standing in line and I hear people speaking Arabic. So I turned around and I say, where are you from? I'm from Tunisia and I'm from Morocco. Well, here's a project that I'm thinking about doing. Will you help me with it? Well, yeah, this is a school project, by the way. It's a peace project that starts with kindergarten and lower grade. And these two were principals at their own schools. I mean, God took me there for a reason, right? And then I leave there and I'm so excited. I'm texting the group and I'm like, I met these people. We're gonna meet again tomorrow. I want you to be there in the House of Friendship. I want them to meet everybody. And I'm getting up the escalator and I see this guy and he's one of the helpers, volunteers, and his name is Farid. Farid is an Arabic name. So I just march on and I say, hey, are you from a Middle East country? He goes, yeah, I'm from Egypt. I talked to him. He's from Calgary. He was on the committee there, so next year he's gonna be there. I reach out to him, we talk, and now I have a third person that can help me. These are 3 countries. Now, Jordan is represented, Lebanon is represented, Bahrain is represented. I was just so excited. By the way, when I was looking at the video for the people who are holding the flags, the first country that I saw was Bahrain. And I thought, okay, I want to remember this guy so I can go back and look for him. And then I realized these people are not from those countries. They're just volunteers that carry the flag. So I didn't have to do that. After I noticed that same guy was from different countries. So that was something that gave me encouragement. I went for a reason and it fell on my lap. And I had such a great time understanding more about the Rotary itself and all the projects they do. And now I'm going to tell you about my favorite project. You all know that I work in the wastewater business. So when I'm there in the opening ceremony, not the opening, they have a big meeting every day. And they bring different people who had made a big impact, just like this shelter box. Well, this guy, he's a PhD in engineering he calls himself Mr. Bathroom, right? So Mr. Toilet. Of course, I immediately fell in love with this guy. He is from Japan, and he has been doing this for a long time. And what he does, he elevates the toilets in countries, very depressed countries. So he says things like, he started out with like one project, and now he's done millions of toilets for the underprivileged schools. He said that one small out of areas Chinese school that had a hole in the ground for toilets, and then he was able to help them and actually install regular toilets in there. They came to him, these children, they come to him and tell him, thank you, I feel like a person. I mean, that makes me feel like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to him. As soon as we leave this thing, I'm gonna reach out to him and join his group. I'm sure they're doing things everywhere. We're privileged, we have the regular toilets, but I'm sure the hole in the ground, by the way, I remember those holes in the ground. My brothers will remember that also from back home, because they're still there. There's still a lot of countries that still have them. So this guy, it made an impact on me, and I'm glad that I met him and, want to do this project with him. Hopefully he'll come and speak to us soon. But anyway, so the bottom line is I really, really encourage you to go, even if you go as a visitor like me, just to go scope the place and see what Rotary International is. I am sure you're going to come back energized and want to do a lot more good work. This is what we're here for. This is our motto. So, so you'll come back and do more. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to turn it over to Rushton now.
So good afternoon. So I'll be brief and just share with you that my initial decision to attend the convention had everything to do with my experience in Atlanta. And the reason why I like to attend convention is because it gives me the opportunity to see the fullness of the diversity of our club. We are truly an international organization. And so I was sharing with my fellow conventioners that I said that I was going to Singapore before I actually believed it. I said it, and Ed gave us, warnings. Okay, the price is going to go up. So it's going to go. Go ahead and register. So I registered, and then I booked a hotel, and then I bought a plane ticket, and it was real for me. And so if you're thinking about going, just start saying, "I'm going to Calgary." I'll highlight just a few memorable aspects of the convention. I think it's the social opportunities. We certainly attended sessions every day. There was a major plenary session where we had a major keynote speaker. We learned a lot about the work of Rotary all across the world. But the social connections, the informal connections were as valuable because you got to meet Rotarians who were boots on the ground, doing the work, talking about their challenges, and learning about the innovative things that they were doing, in many cases with very little resources. And so I come back from the convention motivated and inspired, hearing from our international president who did share with us that we lose as many Rotarians every year as we take in. And so we have to think innovatively and out of the box about how to attract and maintain our membership. And so I'm coming back with some ideas, hopefully that I can share with the membership committee. But all in all, I will say my scripted comments, and so I'll close here so that we'll have enough time to share with you. As I reflect on the convention, I'm also reminded of how these gatherings serve as a bridge between our past achievements and future aspirations. The convention wasn't just about celebrating what Rotary has accomplished, it was also about looking forward and envisioning what we can do together, what more we can do together. It sparked conversation about the upcoming convention in Calgary and how we can make our presence there even more impactful. We've already begun planning a club dinner for Calgary, which I believe will be a fantastic opportunity to strengthen our bonds and strategize for the future. So I'd like to pass the baton to Ed, who will share with you a wealth of information about the convention, House of Friendship, some of the close hospitality and social events, and more information about Calgary, I think.
I proposed that guy's member, so I'll take credit for it. Thanks, Russ. I'm Ed Anderson. I joined Rotary in March of 2004, and I was the president during 2017 and 2018. I'm going to ask my fellow committee members to hand these out. There's several stacks on the table. These are registration forms to go to Calgary. On the back of the first page, sometimes they're on the front, depending on which direction it's stapled, there's a QR code that will take you directly to the Rotary Convention website and provide you a ton of information. If you're technologically challenged, I included a paper registration form and you can register. First question on that form is, what's your Rotary number? I think only Frank knows his Rotary number. If you don't know it, don't worry. The committee will take care of finding that Rotary number for you. But some people say, well, why didn't you go? Well, I was never asked. Well, my fellow Rotarians, I am asking you personally, I am inviting you to come to Calgary from June 21st to 25th of 2025. Shannon is going to have our club birthday program next week, and we're going to talk a little bit about that trip and some of the things that we can do before and after when we go to Calgary. Compared to Singapore, Calgary is easy to get to. The next convention after that's in Taipei, so if you're going to put it off, it's a lot further to go to Taipei than it is to Calgary. I've been to the same 8 conventions that Shannon's been to, and I'll kind of walk you through it. They always start on Saturday. During Friday night, our club hosts a welcome dinner. Shannon helped us arrange a dinner at a 2-star Michelin restaurant on Orchard Road in Singapore. I'm going to tell you, a 2-star Michelin restaurant in Singapore costs a whole lot less than a 2-star restaurant in Paris. But we all enjoyed a really great meal. Shannon had met some ladies from Club in Alabama at the president-elect training, and they joined us, and we had a fantastic time there. When we were in Atlanta, we had a Trader Vic's in the Hilton. Shannon has asked me to plan the dinner for next year, and it's going to be at a steakhouse in Calgary. It's going to be about $100 US. That's going to include your meal, a tip, a cocktail when you get there, and that's going to be a flat price out the door, which is easy for everybody. Each evening during the convention, there is something to do. typically on Mondays, you will have host hospitality night. This coming year, host hospitality night tickets are $50. They're typically between 25 and 60 bucks. And what happens is the local clubs in that town host you for an evening. You don't know where you're going sometimes until the day of the event. In Atlanta, we were told, line up at the bus stop outside the convention center, you're on bus number 17. And we were all on different buses. You got to meet people from all over the world. Rush and Shannon and I were at two different events on the same night, but it's really, you get a feel for the host people. The people in Rotary are so kind. It's like if we had a convention here, you guys would go out of your way to be nice to the people that come from out of town. That's Monday night. Tuesday, our zone, and zone is bigger than district. So we're in a district with 65 clubs. Our zone is roughly all of the clubs down the center of North America. And our zone typically has an event on Tuesday night. We rented out an entire restaurant in Singapore. The food was great, the drinks were great. Singapore, I think their hobby is eating, because none of the food was very expensive. There was a lot of it, and it was all real good. The air conditioning at some of the restaurants needs a little something to be, but I don't think that that's going to be an issue when we come to Calgary. On this form, you will also see an entry for ticketed lunches. Most of the people that attend a Rotary convention don't attend a ticketed lunch. Typically, it's the presidents, presidents-elect, incoming governors, things like that. That doesn't mean you can't go. Those lunches, and I've been to a couple of them over the years. And I went to one hosted by our Rotary director, Beth Stubbs. She actually hosted a table. And so we looked for Beth and sat at that table. I will tell you, if you go to one of those, every one of those Rotary honchos is assigned to a table. And some of them don't have 10 friends to sit with, but they all have very interesting things you can learn from Rotary. So don't sit in the back, come down and sit at the front table and say, hi, I'm Ed Anderson, I'm from the Rotary Club in Knoxville, Tennessee, where are you from? And they'll tell you, it's really a great experience. Each night during the convention, there will be events planned. I've been to dinners on the Mississippi River, I've eaten at the Vasco da Gama Bridge. When we went to Toronto, President Jim Decker had us eat dinner in the CN Tower. So there's something to do every night, you won't be alone. Every Rotary convention is safe, right? Did anybody not feel safe? When you went to Lisbon, Atlanta, like you felt like somebody was looking out for you. People have these badges all over. You go up and go, oh, hi Ed, hi Chris, and it's really a good time. So we're gonna pass these out, unless you guys did already, that was fantastic, awesome. Take a moment to talk with your families tonight. Think about going to Calgary next summer. I think Susan increased our goal from 25 to 40, so now our goal is 40 members going to Calgary. And I'll turn it back over to the president-elect. Thanks.
Okay, news to me, goal is 40 members from this long ago. I said 25, what a loser. Okay, next year, as Ed said, we are going to Calgary. It's not long to get there. It takes much less than 24 hours in the air, and it's beautiful. Calgary is only 1 hour from Banff National Park. It's going to be from June 21 to 25, starts on a Sunday, ends on a Wednesday. If you register now through December 15th, the cost is only $525. Your guests are less, and children are much less. So take the family. Lena Shatara, Lena, I know you're here somewhere. Lena Shatara is our own travel agent, member of our club. She's putting together a post-convention trip for our club and other members from our district and the region who wish to join us. She's going to have at least 2 options, and you're going to hear about those next week. One includes a train tour through the Canadian Rockies, and the other is exploring Banff National Park and local culture and towns. I cannot wait to go. As I said, we've got a goal. We'd love for you to come. I think it will be a transformative experience for you, and you'll get to see the Canadian Rockies with friends. What more could you ask for? Thank you very much. We appreciate the time, and thanks for sending us.
Thank you to our delegation for attending and representing us so well. This is a great program, and hopefully it sets the groundwork for some true interest in Calgary to reach Susan Day Cox goal of 40 attendees. If Susan says something, we have to do it. So, a couple last minute announcements. Jason, with this being your first time to visit us, it's a tradition that each week we have our guests sign a book that goes to a local school, East Knox Elementary, And this week, the book is called The Skull. So we're going to have you sign this, and then we're going to have the delegation sign it after you too. So,
I have to say that, you know, contributing to Shelter Box helps prevent skulls from happening.
perfect segue, spoken like a true professional. Thank you. Again, to our speakers, thank you for being here. To our visiting guests and Rotarians, thank you all for taking the time to be here today in support of our program speakers. Next week, as a reminder, we will be back here at the Crown Plaza, and it is our 109th birthday party. It's going to be led by President-elect Shannon Holland, and we do this each year, and so I highly recommend attending. We're going to highlight the history of our club and set the groundwork for the future. I'm now going to turn it over, before adjourning, over to Mary Ann Mulhern for our four-way test. Mary Ann.